All right, everyone. Welcome to the Angry Agent Uncle podcast. I am Reynold and my
Hey
co-host.
everyone.
That's big. And today we have today we have another guest for you. Her name is Maddie. So, Maddie, did you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me on. My name is Maddie. I am a mental health advocate, peer support specialist. I founded a nonprofit called J&E Support Group. I am a master's of social work student and just a big proponent of mental health because I happen to live with serious mental illness. And after almost dying because of it and having to relearn all basic functions in 2023, I decided to change the scripts and become pretty vocal to educate and let people know they're not alone.
Wow,
Wow,
that's so good.
fairly recent,
Yeah,
2023.
Yes.
Wow.
just about two
Okay.
years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Are you willing to share
Of
what
course.
exactly happened?
Yeah, of course. So I live with a diagnosis is called schizoaffective bipolar type. That's just one of them. And
Uh-huh.
that means I live with symptoms of both schizophrenia and bipolar disorders. And they've always played with my meds. I've always been overly med compliant, thought meds were the only answer when it comes to mental health. And in 2023, I was on like 10 or 15, and they said, well, there's a new one. And I'm like, what's one more, right? And
Mhm.
before this medication, I wasn't processing emotions. I was 420 pounds. I was numb to the world. I was suicidal, like these astronomical side effects. And all of a sudden, when I took this, I started feeling better. But the problem was they took me off my other medications. And when you live with a schizoaffective disorder, you have to treat mania, depression, and psychosis. And they took me off my mania medication. Well, I became manic and psychotic severely. And I ended up bedridden because of this. And they kept trying med after med to try to fix it. And they ended up increasing a medication called lithium. And lithium is a heavy metal used to treat psychosis, mania, things like that. But a problem is when you take such a heavy medication, you have to obtain blood work, and she didn't. And that I ended up getting poisoned. It's called lithium toxicity.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't walk, talk, swallow, read, write, use the toilet. I was
Oh
dying.
wow.
And when I
Wow,
went to
yeah.
the ICU, I ended up with not only lithium toxicity, but serotonin syndrome and a disorder called AME. It means I had a brain injury. And the first course of action is fluids when they try to flush poison out of your body. But the fluids enlarged my heart. And when your heart's enlarging and they continue fluids, it makes your lungs collapse. So I was also diagnosed with delirium, so I was tied to a bed, basically unconscious, unable to do anything because of this medication. And recovery was hard, but the best thing that ever happened to me because I got to reevaluate my medications. I got to learn holistic coping skills, and it really gave me my voice to do things like this.
Wow, wow. That's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
That's but
Yeah.
yeah, but Maddie, congratulations for, being here today. I'm just astounded by
thanks.
your story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, a lot of things to overcome.
yeah.
Um, so when you spoke of holistic, so does that mean you're off a lot of your meds and then
Yeah,
doing
so
other stuff, or
what
what's
I
going on?
learned along the way is that when you have a diagnosis for mental health, it's a whole lifestyle you have to take into account. So I have to take medications for the rest of my life, but I went from taking 10 or 15 to two or three. And
Hmm.
you have to also think about things like adequate sleep, diet, exercise, meditation, yoga, mindfulness, coping skills, therapy. It's a full time job. I have to think three steps ahead in every situation of what skill, what strategy, what tool am I going to use right now to make the next moment okay. But I wasn't doing that before. I was like, just give me another pill. Let me just find the quick fix, the easy answer. But when you have a mental health diagnosis, there is no easy answer. It takes a lifestyle uh, to make a change.
Right. I think,
Yeah.
Reynold, I think Maddie made a very good point there. From the Chinese medicine tradition,
Hmm.
we often look at everything as a system, right?
Yes.
Especially the human body. So what Maddie described earlier reminded me a lot about that, which is sure you take one med for this symptom, but then that in turn affects something else in your system, and then you have to take another med for that, which cascades into other things. So I think Maddie's approach right now is one that I agree with, especially coming from a more Chinese traditional Chinese medicine kind of a mindset, which is you have to address the entire system instead of just giving a pill for specific symptoms. But I think it really is something that is quite a challenge. And from what I hear from Maddie so far is that you've sort of gone through the gamut of all the worst things, worst possible things that can happen to you. Yet you
Yeah.
come out through the other side, and then you've sort of figured out what works and what doesn't work for you, right?
It took me from the age of 19 to 35 to figure that out. Finding that right cocktail that's not too much but is effective enough is a long journey, but it's so important. And what I express to my clients is it's not just medication. You've got to find that lifestyle, and that's a journey in itself. When you go to a doctor, they're like meds, 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 but it's a path of self-discovery, mind, body, and soul that you've got to go on to find healing.
Yes,
Yeah, yes,
absolutely.
yeah, I agree. Because Western medicine is just whatever. If you're in pain, take a painkiller, right? If you're
Yes.
right, if you're whatever it is, whatever system you're coughing, take a cough pill or something. It's just specifically for that.
Yeah,
Um,
but
the,
oftentimes, like, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, or holistic approaches are pooed by a lot of people simply because it
right,
takes longer to work. Because you're addressing a system, you're basically making a systemic change, right? So it needs a
Yeah.
little time. And most people are in the mindset because they're so used to taking a pill and having a
mhm.
quick fix, although it's just temporary. So they kind of poo poo on other approaches that take time. I notice a lot of people do that, which is a shame, actually.
I think it's
Yeah.
also a money issue too. Not money issue, as in it's the, these drug makers are there to make money, right? So they make all these drugs, and if you're going the holistic route, then they don't make money because right, you do a
That's
lifestyle
right.
change, right?
Yes.
So all these drug producers are just getting these doctors to peddle drugs because that's how they make money. That's how the doctors make money. And why not break? What's the point of breaking the system when everyone's making money, right? So
I think Maddie can maybe agree or correct me if I'm wrong about this, but over the years, my view has become that like Western medicine has its place, but you can't rely solely on it. Like that's why I really commend Maddie's approach, which is just to try all the different things that works for her, because it's her
Yeah.
system, it's her body. But
that's
at the
right.
same time, it's like we don't discount completely some of the benefits that Western medicine can, in fact, give. So it's like
That's
a
right.
combination of things that can work for you. You don't specifically have to limit it to either it's a holistic Eastern or a Western approach. As long as it works and you find the right amount of right combination, I think that's the key, right? Right, Maddie? Would you say that's fair?
I would 100% agree with that. Like, I have to take medication for the rest of my life just to balance the chemicals in my brain, but that's not enough and it's not the only answer. Like, they can only do so much. It's not a quick fix. You have to address the whole system and the holistic care along with that to enter recovery because recovery is possible and hope is real, but it takes a lot of work to do that. And like you said, the holistic measures take time, and a lot of people in crisis want that immediate fix, but that's not the way
Mhm.
it works. You've got to put the work in, you've got to find what works for you, and you've got to go on that journey. Because what I tell you works for me might not work for you because we're all individuals.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
very true. Yes, and then so Maddie, I wanted to ask, what are some things that you practice
Yeah.
in
Um,
your daily routine or
well, the
sort of
first thing
lifestyle?
is Yeah, I have to get adequate sleep and relaxation. Routine in the morning and the night is key for me. Staying busy. Um, I go to therapy and they teach me like grounding skills, grounding techniques that are an awesome strategy when you feel anxious.
Hmm.
Diet is important for me. Exercise. I enjoy yoga. I enjoy meditation. I enjoy mindfulness. And now recently I'm going on a journey for my soul and I'm studying the Tao, and I find that that gives me a lot of peace within myself. So it's the whole lifestyle you've got to look at.
As an
That's
Asian uncle, I approve, especially the Tao part.
yes, yes. But yeah, speaking with Asian uncle, Asian culture, a lot of these sort of mental health issues are sort of taboo, maybe. I don't know if I'm using the right word, but it's sort of swept under the rug, at least when I was growing up. Um, Everything was just like, oh, if you feel depressed at just you being sad, go do something, like walk it off. It's almost like that American term, phrase, just walk it off, right? You get a lot of that. I feel like, oh, just go do something, get your mind off it. It's not really an issue. It's all in your head. Yeah, like you're making this. You're making it up. It almost feels like when people come across with any type of mental issues, it's like you're just making it up. So I think in Asian communities now, it's a little bit better. They're recognizing it a little bit more. Um, but like you can see the big difference where um, in just medical practices itself, where in American culture there's a lot of uh, what was it a therapist and psychologist, right? And sort of like in Taiwan or whatnot, it's very limited because they didn't they're only catching on maybe just recently, but in the past they really didn't believe all this, that it's everyone just
Yeah,
points at the, hey, it's just in your
absolutely.
head, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, Reynolds, our common friend, whom I'm
yeah,
not going to name because he doesn't want to be named, but
right,
he's going into that field, which is very scarce in Taiwan, right? At
right,
least from where over here, I can speak for for Taiwan, which is mental health and having access to mental health resources are a relatively new thing. And to your point about how like in the past, in Asian culture, people just say walk it off, and with the benefit of hindsight, um, now you look back to a lot of the things that happened in our parents' generation and even the ones before that. With the benefit of hindsight, you kind of realize that a lot of it is undiagnosed or like just untreated mental health issues.
right,
Now with the advent of more information and we understand mental health better now, and you look back to some of the stories that about your ancestors or about some of your family members, and you realize that gosh, he was probably suffering from autism, or he was probably, was probably on the spectrum, right? So
yeah,
we
Yeah.
just didn't die. We didn't have the term for it. We didn't know what was going on. So we just didn't really, do anything about it, right?
And
yeah,
I think even in America, like we're diagnosing a lot, but if you look historically at mental health care in this country, it
hmm,
was deplorable. I mean, just go back to like the 1950s, people were being institutionalized left and right, and these institutions were deplorable. There was crayons
Yes,
packed, they were
yes,
abused, they
yeah,
were not bathed, they were sitting in their own feces, they were giving
right,
lobotomies, they were giving electric shock therapy. Like it
yeah.
was deplorable.
It's very
And
sad, isn't it? Yeah,
yes, so mental health care historically has been awful across the globe. And one
right,
in five people live with mental health issues, whether it's diagnosed or undiagnosed. And everybody's got some form of mental health. And across cultures, there's other cultures who don't discuss it. It's just taboo to some people. And like you said, they say
right,
walk it off, but mental health affects your physical too. Like it can
yeah,
present with physical symptoms, and there's no shame in having mental illness. There's no shame in seeking support. Like, if you can have a more fulfilling, peaceful life, why wouldn't you want to?
Yeah,
Exactly, right.
exactly.
I
Yes,
think partly
definitely.
it's because of people like Maddie, like yourself, who are advocates for mental health issues and making the public and more people understand some of the issues that happen with mental health. And I think it's partly just, at least in Asian society, suicide rates have gone up, especially among the youth,
Yes.
so quickly, and it's skyrocketed, and it's becoming an issue where adults can no longer just ignore it or sweep it under the rug.
Right.
Back in the day, it's like, well, if somebody unfortunately harmed themselves, they just chalk it up to, well, that person's a weirdo. But if the incident of these things happening, especially among younger people, are skyrocketing, you can't just say, well, that's a coincidence, right? It's happening all over the place. And that's why I think more and more people, at least in Asian society, are starting to take notice as well.
And
Yeah,
I'm
that's
happy to
true.
hear that because across the world, our youth suicide rate is climbing. In my area, that's the, I want to say, first or second leading cause of death of all youth across the board. So we need to address youth mental health and we need to address men's mental health. Women are more likely to have an attempt, but men are more likely to die by suicide because men are taught, like you're saying, walk it off, men don't cry, men
Yeah.
don't have mental health. Be tough, tough it out. But men
Hmm.
are people too. They have
Yeah.
emotions, they have feelings, they go through trauma.
Thank you for
Oh,
acknowledging that, Maddie. Like, not a lot
Right.
of people actually acknowledge that for us, man.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
right. We uncle our people too, right?
Yeah, we're beating a
Yeah,
dead horse here, but almost every episode in our podcast, we would say, that one reason why we're doing this is our own form of therapy. When we talk it
yeah.
out, especially when we talk to
Yeah.
people like you, we get new perspectives, and it's therapy for us because a
yeah,
lot of times we don't have an outlet for this kind of
Yeah.
emotions or
yeah,
these
And
thoughts. Yeah,
having that outlet is important, and it doesn't have to be a therapist if you're not
right.
comfortable with that. Someone you feel safe with. There's something cathartic about just getting it out. And if you're not comfortable saying it, journal. That's another way to get it out.
yeah, that's right. That's another way to get it
Yeah.
Yes,
out.
that's a good
Yes.
Just
idea. Yeah,
you got to get that release somehow because when it's all bottled up and you ruminate, that can cause anxiety and other symptoms. So it's important to have, and if you can't journal, go exercise, go run, get the tensions in your body out somehow.
Yeah,
okay.
you
Some
mentioned something that's really important, I think, that, you know, I think it's important to have a community or just people who are close to you who can be that emotional outlet. Like for
Yes.
men, at least, it's always a hard thing for us because oftentimes we don't really have anybody to talk to. That's why
right.
journaling is good, or exercising is good, or doing a podcast is good. But I
That's
think
And
my
I think
outlet,
having
right?
a
That's our
community
outlet.
really is important, right? I think
it
Right.
women
is
are
important.
naturally do that easier than us men. I think, for on the whole,
Yeah.
I think women really they have a sisterhood. They have a close group of friends. Most women, I wouldn't say all, but like my wife, for example, whenever they hang out, they go out and share a meal. They would just share stories, and I think that's very therapeutic for them.
Yeah.
Us
It
men, we
is.
don't necessarily have that all the time.
I would say that's
No.
totally true. When I met my husband, he didn't verbalize any of this, and it all came out as anger because he didn't know how to process his emotions. He felt
Right.
anxious or he felt sad, and he was punching a tree. Like he didn't know what was happening, but together we've kind of learned, okay, this is anxiety, and this is how you say you have anxiety, and this is how you process anxiety, and you can get through the anxiety. And his level of anger is gone down a lot now that he's learned how to process his emotions.
Wow, that's powerful. Hey, Reynold, we
Yeah.
should learn how
And
to do that as well.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we can drop the angry tag on our on our title.
And a no more podcast. That's it. Last
Right.
episode.
That's right. After we speak
Courtesy
with
of
Maddie,
Maddie.
that's it.
Thank you. That was our last episode. We're healed now.
but but yeah, what about the so going back to the youths, because we've been talking about the younger generation too on our last few episodes too. So how do we help the youth, with all the things that they need to deal with and think of now?
Well, youth are people too. They have emotions and trauma, and we need to hear our youth we need to create those safe spaces for youth. When I was a child, I had something super traumatic happen to me. I was sexually assaulted, and I told somebody, and they shut me down and told me it was my fault, and it created
Oh,
internal issues for me for the rest of my life. So if
right,
somebody who
right.
is young is coming to you, listen to them and get them supports. I know some places are putting therapy in schools. There's a lot of pushback in some areas, but it
Right.
eliminates a lot of barriers. If it's not in the school, parents have to pay for it. Parents have to get them there after school, and that's a problem for
Mm,
some people. And some parents may not be as on board with therapy, so having that resource in the school is phenomenal. But we've got to address things like bullying in our schools because that's a lot of the reason why we have such a high suicide rate. Kids are being bullied in astronomical amounts. And they have feelings too. They have emotions
Yeah.
too. And if they're not taught how to process these things and they're not taught and they're not given safe spaces, they internalize that. And the bullying is not just in schools. The internet can be a scary place for kids. People feel
Oh, yes,
safe
that's
behind a
true.
keyboard, and that leads to a lot of suicide in children as well. So we need to teach our children to be kind. Kindness is free. There's no need to be hateful towards other people. People have emotions and we don't know what someone else is going through. We truly don't because not everybody verbalizes it. And your hate could be the last straw for somebody. But on the flip side, your kindness can save a life. It's just a moment for you, but your kind words, your random act of kindness can be the difference between life and death for somebody.
wow, yeah, that's
Wow.
powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill them with kindness. That's what I
Right.
say.
Yeah.
Right. Killed them. That's good.
After
That's good.
hearing you share that, Maddie, like I realized, um, like us Asian uncles have a lot of trauma over the
Yeah.
years. Especially when we were kids, that we never really have a word for. Looking back, a lot of traumatic things that happened to us shaped a lot of our psychosis, shaped a lot of our insecurities and hurt. And to your point about creating safe spaces, I'm all for that. I'm One of the things that I always try to do wherever I go is I think those safe spaces for children are so important. A library can be a safe space. Just like a safe public space or a third space, so to speak. The idea of a third space where it's a neutral ground where you could go and be okay. And there's usually some available form of resource for you to just have someone to talk to, or maybe just find out more information. Just a place where you know that you won't be hurt further by whatever is hurting you. I think that is so important.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I would
Uh,
totally agree
There's
with
some
that.
some form of safe spaces here in Asia.
yeah.
Would you believe it or not? Are convenience stores? Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, because we have the
Hey,
highest density of convenience stores anywhere in the world. Like there's literally several within a block. It's so
that's true.
competitive, and we do everything via convenience stores. Like we pay our bills, we buy lunch, dinner, we buy tickets to concerts, or we can buy tickets for the high
Right.
speed rail. You can do everything. It's like a one
Yeah, you could
stop
do
shop.
everything. Yeah. You could hang
Yeah,
out there too.
and
Sometimes they have tables and you
exactly,
could just hang out
exactly, Reynolds. And
there.
that's what I mean by actually, believe it or not, in at least over here in Asia, a lot of the safe spaces are actually the convenience stores because it's a place where you can actually hang out. You can go there, meet other people. There's usually a very warm, inviting environment where you can come in. There's a smell of food. There's a place for you to sit down and just catch your breath and gather yourself. There's And the bigger convenience stores, they even have books, magazines. It's a
Oh,
place
that's
where you
true.
can
Yeah.
feel that you can get away from the madness of whatever you're dealing with and just have a quiet place to gather yourself. So people often overlook that, but that's so important because when you don't have any other place to go, a convenience store is actually quite nice.
I
Yes.
think
Well,
that's
yeah. Oh, go ahead,
and
Maddie.
I think that's important. And to go back just a second, I like what you said that we all have trauma, right? No
Hmm.
childhood is perfect. And if we don't address that trauma, it can follow us and it does shape us. Children are very
Yes.
impressionable. Our brains are just forming. We're emulating what we see. And what people say and do to us sticks with us for life. And it can have lifelong effects on people. So there's different types of therapies to address childhood trauma. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with what's called an ACEs score. It's like a tally of different types of childhood trauma, and it not only discusses what type of mental strain that has on an adult, but also physical. High ACEs scores are can predispose people to heart attacks, diabetes, and it can show that people with high ACEs scores lives end earlier than other people, especially if that trauma is not addressed.
Yeah, absolutely. It manifests itself in the
Yes.
Yeah,
physical, right? All
Yeah.
all diseases begin with your mind.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't know about this score. So I
yeah,
learned
they're
something new today. Yeah. Right. Because I know the agent always are up to date about what causes you to die or cancer. What causes. So, and then also we also very into grades, right? So I feel this is something Asian Asian people can get on top of.
Yeah, you can Google ACEs score and rate yourself. I did it. It was pretty interesting.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah, yeah, definitely. Share the link, or where should we go to get that test? Actually,
Just Google ACEs score test.
okay,
It's a general test that there's all over online. It asks about things like, were your parents divorced? Were your parents incarcerated? Was there abuse in the house? Was there substance use in the house? Was there assault in the house? Things like that. It's just a
hmm.
general test, and you calculate your score. And I want to say it's like four or more, and you're predisposed to like heart failure, diabetes, early
Wow.
death.
Wow. Reynold, we have to check that out. One of
yeah,
the
we
things
definitely
that
have to
I
take the
feel
test.
is one of the responsibilities of being born in the later years versus our parents is now that we have more access to information. I feel that one of the roles or one of the things that we can do for the next generation or for our children is to filter out a lot of the generational trauma that is passed down to us from family. At least
Yeah.
that's what I try to do with my children. Like, I now that I'm older and I recognize what are those generational trauma that's being repeated generation after generation. First of all, I recognize them, so I know them for what they are now, and then secondly, I try to just let the buck stop with me and not try to pass any of that to my children. It's a very hard thing to do, especially since we're having to deal with that ourselves as well. But I try not to give them any of that and let them be free. So let them have wings to fly and just find their own way. I don't want them to carry any of that burden anymore.
Generational trauma is very real and impacts a lot of people. And I think you're right on the money. A lot of people in this generation are trying to, like you said, stop that and create a new pattern for their children. And I just commend you for doing that because that takes a lot of effort.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I just feel like unfortunately our mind works like grooves in a record player.
Yeah.
um, once you're set into a pattern, it really takes tremendous effort to get yourself out of that groove or that pattern. Even if you recognize it, recognizing it is one thing, right, Maddie? But then having the will to get yourself out of that track and onto something that's more positive and healthy, it takes a tremendous amount of effort, and a lot of that is actually generational trauma.
And
Yes.
there's no shame in asking for help with that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Right, right. That's one
Yeah.
thing that me and Reynolds, I think we have to work on. Us being
Yeah.
the typical Asian uncle from that generation, we have to work on that. It's not
Yeah.
easy for us to admit that we need help.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
hardest is accepting and then asking for help, because that's a sign of weakness. When we're growing up, that's
Mm.
that's called the sign of weakness. If you can't take
That's a
care of
no
yourself, then
no. That's a
yeah.
no no in our in our
Oh my
Yeah,
society,
goodness.
yeah.
unfortunately.
Especially for men,
Well,
I guess, going back to the men thing. Yeah, men is, maybe it's same for all cultures, but men are meant to be the head of the house, take care of everything, right? Do the heavy lifting. So if anything's like wrong, even with your say, with your mind, they cover it up because they don't want to seem weak.
And if
What
you've
are
been
your thoughts?
hearing that your entire life, it's going to take a lot of effort to think something else. But hear me today. It's okay to ask for help. You're a human being too. Nobody's perfect. It's okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
I'm
so
not
much.
even sure my dad is aware of how much trauma he's inflicted on us, his kids, when we were growing up, just from bad habits and from, just insensitive things he would say or do, which really hurts a child's feelings and damages your psyche. Um, he's from that generation where I don't think he even knows what he's doing. But looking back, I realized that, well, number one, it's a miracle we survived all of that. But number two, it's like, yes, it got you stronger, but it can only take you so far. Up to a certain point, you have to learn how to reach out and work those issues out from your system. Otherwise, like Maddie says, it manifests itself in so
Yeah.
many things, including physical symptoms like diabetes, heart problems. I think it's so true. We don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think well, one thing I wanted to ask Maddie is I'm trying to break the habit for some things as well. And one thing that I'm having trouble is sometimes when it comes to younger generations, such as my kids, the idea of are they telling the truth or not, right? Because you're growing up as I grew up like, oh, everything I say is wrong, right? Everything I do is wrong, and then whatever my parents say is the right thing. So naturally, right now, I've been uh, groomed to say, okay, kids are always wrong, right? Anything my kids say, they're not telling the truth, or um, so if they have any issues, there has to be something else behind it. It can't be, it can't be the teachers that is at fault or something. So something happening at school, it has to be their fault, right? So I'm trying to break that habit. What is your take on that?
Wait, before Maddie answers that, I just want to say that their parents probably did it to them too.
Right,
That's why
Yeah.
they do that to us. Anyway,
right,
Maddie, please go ahead.
I think that's just a generational thing that we've learned. Like my parents did that to me sometimes. Like when I was 16, I opened up and told my mom that I was sexually assaulted, and she said, "No, you weren't. You're a liar." Because
yeah,
she didn't want to admit that
Oh,
something had happened.
yeah.
that's so
I'm s-
unfortunate. That's so sad.
Yeah.
yeah, so
I mean,
sorry
Yeah.
she
for
just
that.
could. I think because it meant there was something wrong that she didn't want to address. So her
Hmm.
first reaction was, "This can't be real. You're just making this up. You want attention," instead of dealing with the real issue. And maybe because it was so heavy, I'm not sure. Maybe because I waited so long to say anything, but I would get in trouble and it wasn't always my fault, but I think that's a lot of parents and I think it's hard sometimes to hear our children, but it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. 9 times out of 10, if a kid is coming to you with something major, there's some truth behind it. So we need to hear our children. Like nobody heard me when I was a kid and it created
Yeah.
Yeah,
PTSD. And
sorry
I
for
live
that.
Right.
with lifelong effects because of that. So it takes investigation, it takes time, it takes admitting that something wasn't right. And it's not going to be easy because our parents did it to us, their parents did it to them. But it's a cycle, like with that generational trauma, that we have to break, and it's going to take a lot of effort. And I'm not saying kids are always right, I'm not saying that at all. But sometimes we have to read between the lines with our kids because they may be seeking help in a roundabout way and they may not know how to articulate for that help. So you gotta try to hear them and navigate between the lines.
Right. Right. That's so powerful. Yes.
Yes.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, I mean, just to share some personal stuff from my side, after hearing you say that, one of the things I realized is like I carry a lot of anger towards my parents. For example, my mom. Like if you look at the surface, it's like, well, Vic, what are you upset about? What did you do specifically? And it's so hard to answer that question. It's like yes, I can't name one specific thing that, would justify this kind of this anger bottled up inside against her. I know it's very hard, and it's hard to justify myself. Yet when I look back, in history through growing up, what Maddie said is so true. Like, it's the little things. Like, how your mother might not take you seriously, or and it's not just like, us kids being brats and, like, like, my mom doesn't give me attention. No, it's like,
Yeah.
things like, you're genuinely going through a crisis, but your parents just brush it off, or like she would often defend other people instead of like standing on my side, which hurts me a lot because I think, like, wait a second, like, first of all, I'm your son, right? You should hear both sides of the story, and in fact, you should have a little bit of bias towards me because I'm family. But instead, she has a tendency to just like tell me to say, "Oh, tell the other person you're sorry." It's like, what? You don't even know what's going on. You don't even know who's at fault. Why are you asking me to apologize? She has a tendency to do that, and it made me very upset and, angry with her for many many years, which I'm still trying to deal with. And I realized that it's because she probably went through the same thing with her parents. Like, they just asked her to apologize, not believing in anything that she says.
And I think part of the way we can work on that in our generation with our children is addressing our own trauma. You know, a lot of our trauma is still in there. And it's just like with mental illness, like I was saying earlier, if we're not getting it out, if we're not working on it, if we're not healing, it's just going to come out in the same pattern. So I don't have children, but if I did, I would need to talk with my husband, talk with my friends, find some kind of resource to work on these patterns that my parents did to me that affected me as an adult so that I could effectively not do that with my children. Trauma work is difficult. Trauma work is heavy, but it's necessary because, like we were saying earlier, it can present itself in physical symptoms down the line. And if we don't have some sort of outlet, which I know could be a thing because you're a man, could be because your culture, you feel like you can't express these things, but it has a lifelong impact if you don't.
Even if we were just to pivot a little bit, talking about loneliness for a second here, in Asia, that's a real epidemic. A lot of people are just dying from loneliness. So there's so many people, especially in countries like Japan, who people people just are so isolated that they're constantly in a room in their head without anybody to talk to, and that just it becomes a vicious cycle where they think a thought but they don't really have anybody to talk with, and that their own thoughts reinforces the original thought, so there's no way to escape that. And a lot of them are suffering from isolation and loneliness, which leads to some extreme behaviors. And another thing is, like, there's this phenomenon in Japanese society now where they're finding a lot of people who died in their apartments and nobody even knew they died until weeks or months later, because the smell becomes obvious, and finally the neighbors report it to the police. And then there are special cleanup crews for that kind of death in Japan. So it's become a real epidemic in Asian society, just like the disintegration of the classic nuclear family and just isolation.
It is a problem, and that's one reason I created the nonprofit that I did. One of our initiatives is free support groups. It's about building communities. It's about finding like-minded people. It's about having a safe place to talk. It's about leaning on people who understand you because I felt lonely. I felt isolated. I felt alone in the world. And I didn't want that for anybody else because that's not good for your mental health. And you're right, it is an epidemic. A lot of people across the world feel lonely and don't have anyone to talk to. And so, but that's why I created the nonprofit. That was the first initiative to build those communities because when you have someone you can lean on, it can really help you mentally and physically.
Yeah, that human touch is so important. We're social animals by nature, right? So
Yeah.
without that human interaction, we slowly draw into our own shells. I mean, look at, for example, why ChatGPT and AI in general. I mean, there are now social issues coming out from that because, people are so lonely. They talk to the chatbot, they talk to AI,
Yeah,
and it's not healthy because that's not a real person. And there are some stories of how people have committed suicide, or like went through really extreme behaviors because the AI chatbot just keeps telling them to do a certain thing. And that's
yeah,
so unfortunate. They just don't have anybody to talk to. They just want somebody to talk to.
yeah. I mean, there's instances where they turn the chatbot into their girlfriends or boyfriends, or
That's right,
I
because they're
think
so
there's
lonely.
one,
Yeah.
yeah, there's one article where they try to marry the chatbot. I mean, it's crazy that the world that we're living in now. But I thank Maddie so
Yeah.
much
But this
for,
just shows you how desperate people are for human connection, right, Maddie?
yeah,
That just shows you
exactly.
how
Yeah,
desperate we all are.
That's
I
so
would
true.
agree with that.
Yes, and then yeah, because again, I was reading another article, the because Vic was saying that there's the loneliness issue is it's really not just in Japan, not just in Asia, but here in America too. It's a growing issue too in America as well, where people are just feeling lonely, and then the issues that arise from being lonely, whether it's suicide or other things. Um, but it's also a really big issue in the United States as well that the not a lot of people are addressing.
Yeah, the irony of living in a big city is that you feel more isolated than ever. Isn't that
Yeah,
weird?
right. Yeah, exactly. Everyone's stuck to their phones or something, right? Like if
Right.
you're,
That's
Yeah.
so
yeah,
true.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, even when you go out, everyone's like on their phone. If you're out with friends, everyone's checking on their phone. I find it funny sometimes where you're sitting at the same table and then you got to text them to communicate.
But I think Maddie brought up a good point a while ago, which is like, even if you don't have access to other people, you can exercise, you can read a
Yeah,
book, you can
exactly.
journal,
Yes.
go out for a walk, or
Team
like
exercise. I
maybe,
feel like, yeah, joining like a
yeah,
team sport is very good. You get both exercise and uh, interaction with people.
right.
There's
Yeah,
there's websites where you can find groups like Meetup as an example, and it's not just like a group, it's a group with your common interests. So say you like to knit, there's a
right.
knitting group that happens on Thursdays and you can join it. Or sometimes local communities, like where I host one of my groups, they have girls' night, they have ASL night, they have themed nights, and it's just about getting people
Mm,
out of their houses and face to face and meeting other people. So
right, right.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
really,
which is just like common back in the day, but somehow in our modern society, people have become just like pigeonholed into their little
yeah,
box.
yeah,
So now we have to make
exactly.
a conscious effort to get people out of their box.
Yeah,
Right.
it's hard.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not easy. Like the back in the good old days where everyone is just out and about. Even with the younger generation, how they used to play in the front lawns, and then the neighbors' kids, they're all playing together on the same street. Now, no one's playing out on the front lawn.
But
Everyone's like
Maddie,
stuck inside.
the reverse side of that is like, when I have to hang out with other parents from my kids' school, I don't really enjoy that though. It's
Yes.
just the reverse of that is like, yeah, like I'm only friends with a lot of them because my kids are friends with them. You know what I mean? That's the
You're,
antisocial
you're
Asian
forced to be
uncle in me
friends.
coming out. I'm forced to
My
be friends.
husband, my husband doesn't like people. My husband is happiest when he's alone. And like I
Right.
work two jobs
Yeah.
and go to school, so on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I'm doing 13 hours, and he's just alone and it makes him happy. It's how he recharges. So we're all different. Whereas me, I love to talk. I could talk to a tree. So I'm going to be social. So part of that
Right.
is knowing yourself. Like when I drag him out places, he's like, I'm going to have a panic attack. And I'm like, just give me an
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah.
And when we go
Right.
places, we have a code word. So when he is getting too anxious because he's around people, we can just leave.
Right.
Right.
Wow.
That's a good one. We need code words.
You're
Uh,
wonderful that way. Like I should discuss this with my wife and give her a code word, but she'll
yeah,
probably just brush it off and say, "No, you're staying for this kitty party, whether you like it or not."
right. It's your responsibility as a dad.
No, if I have to hear Baby Shark one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind. Yeah. Oh gosh, it's so hard. Like I'm so happy to just like sometimes stay at home and and read my comics or play video games or build model kits. It's just like introverted stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
But we all
true.
socialize.
recharge differently, as Maddie says. We recharge our batteries
Yeah.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
find it fun sometimes because you know how mom said they wanted like a girls' night out, and they do that, and then us guys a lot of times, at least us older guys, say, oh yeah, we'll have a guys' night out, but we rather just sit at home and watch some sports or something.
Right, but all jokes aside, I think this goes to the point where, in our previous podcast, what Brian said about these days as an older Asian uncle, yes, you want human connection, but you don't need as much of it anymore. But you still need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
you still
I
need
think
it.
you
Like
need a
in the
it's
middle.
important
mix.
to go
Yeah,
out, but and meet people, but you don't need to go out like 5 times in a week. Maybe just once a week, or maybe like,
right.
twice a month. That's enough.
Twice.
That's
Yeah,
enough for him. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's
exactly.
okay. We're all different. We're all unique. You got to know yourself because if it's going to make you stressed out to go out 5 nights a week, then
Right.
why
That
do
kind of
it?
defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah,
for
that's
for me,
true.
yeah, for me, it's more like talking to adults because I'm just talking to my kid all the time, and it's just like kid talk. And then, so that's why I also started this podcast with Vic because I want to talk to an adult sometimes,
Right, of
and
course,
sometimes,
yeah.
yeah,
There's only so
even
much you can talk to about with
yeah,
a kid, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, what are you playing on Roblox again? Like, I don't know
Yeah.
these things, right? How many times can you say 6 7 right now? It's like I
Oh,
don't know,
oh
right?
no.
It's like, oh man, it's like
Oh
I don't get it.
no.
I used to be a
Oh man.
teacher, and after the day, I couldn't talk anymore.
Yeah,
It was
You're all
the
talked
things
out. You're all
I
talked
was
out.
talked out. I went home and I was
Yeah.
like, "Don't talk to me." They they were like flipping cups and spinning fidget spinners and saying things I was like, I have no more energy.
exactly right. Uh, I need an out. I need a tag out here.
No, going back to what we were talking about, the safe third spaces. That's why I think it's so important, because it's a place where either you're an introvert or extrovert. Both of you can go, right? If you're an extroverted person, you're there to meet people and socialize. Introverted person, you go there to be by yourself, listen to some music, read a book, do whatever you want, right? So that's
Right,
why public libraries, for example, are so near and dear to my heart. Convenience stores, or like a beautiful public park where people can just take a stroll, or have the kids play in the children's section, with slides and swings and whatnot. Just or gardens. Those things are so important. I think when you live in a place where you have access to those things, that can do a lot for your mental health. And you meet pets in the park. Some people bring their pets, their dogs, rabbits, cats, whatever. And if you're into animals, that's a great way to relieve stress.
yes,
Yeah, my dogs are a huge stress relief for me. I love them. They're very therapeutic.
Great. Yes.
yes, animals are
Great.
great. Yes, animals are great. But I think even people can just like Maddie here, creating communities, just creating a group. It doesn't need to be a whole nonprofit. It could just be someone just reaching out, posting something on what's it, the meetup, like saying, hey,
Yeah.
whatever it is, men with mommy issues. Let's meet up or something.
That's a little kinky now, but
But okay. But jokes aside, yeah, just being a leader in your community, just saying, hey, if anyone wants to hang out and talk it out, because some people, um, just for me, for example, sometimes I have friends, but sometimes it's certain issues that I just don't know how to talk to them about, or feel like I can't share that with them because
Yeah, I hear
they're
you.
not going through
I
the
hear
same
you.
thing.
Reynold,
They,
it's hard for us Asian
yeah,
guys to open up about things like that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
not
if
easy.
yeah, but if someone takes the head, I mean, if someone like takes the charge and be like, hey guys, if anyone wants to talk about this, just for example, they I might just say, yeah, I'll go join, even though I don't know the guy. I'm not his friend or anything. But hey, he's going through the same issues as me, and I feel like, hey, that's a safe space. I could talk to him. Maybe we'll see when we get there, right?
Would
But
you guys ever be open to a therapist? Because they're a neutral party who can't talk about it, who can give you skills to work on it. Is that something you would be comfortable with?
yeah, I had a therapist before, but it was always about the cost, right? If insurance covers it, I'm okay with
Yeah.
it. Yeah. If
Yeah,
there's
it's
some free
expensive.
therapists, if there's like ones that are willing to be free,
Yeah.
I'm all down
That
for
was
that. Yeah,
that was my initial idea with grad school was to be a free therapist through
yeah,
grant funding, but I found that the system is broken on a much larger level. So
yeah,
I'm going to work on advocacy and policy and the
Right. There
bigger
are also so
systems
many
at
legal
large.
hurdles you have to jump through,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, but
So
there's insurance is a racket. Insurance is interesting and
yes,
it creates a lot of barriers for people to get necessary care.
yeah. So I think
Yeah, I think
that's
the
why
best
yeah,
help is still from the community. If you can
yeah,
find a
like
community,
support groups. Yeah, I feel
yeah,
those are
Yeah.
because those are
definitely.
low cost to free, right? Free,
Yes.
churches do those.
Mine are
There's
100% free. We have
yeah,
two in person and
nonprofits.
one virtual, and I don't charge a dime
Yeah,
because I
Wow,
believe
wonderful.
we need to build communities and it's important.
yeah. We
Yeah,
should
this
start
work that
a
you're doing,
yeah.
Maddie, is really for the greater good of the universe. You're putting it out there. I mean,
Yes, yes,
good karma will come back to you. Like in the East,
yes,
this is part of life, right? The notion of karma,
Yeah.
the notion of just doing good because that's how you build a good foundation for what we consider a good life. In
yes,
the short term, people who do selfish things might seem like they're getting ahead, but our viewpoint as Easterners are always like we're talking about lifetimes here.
Yeah.
This is something that is very common for us. I know it's a little bit, it's not that common, over there in the West, but over here it's just part of life. Like we look at things in terms of lifetimes. Like, yes, so if you're too short-sighted, that is not the path to true happiness. So you're trying to put the good vibrations out to the universe, so that in turn gives you a good life.
After my
yes,
near-death experience, people really helped me, and I felt like it was my duty to give back to the world. That's why I'm in grad school. That's why I do the work I do, because I wouldn't be here without people helping me. So why not give that back to the world and why not make it equitable, accessible, and affordable? You
Beautiful,
know?
beautiful.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry for your near-death experience, but very thankful that you came out from that with this new found motivation and idea to help the world. Yeah.
Also, just your
Yeah.
story is inspiring for people, especially people who are going through something. Because I realized that, a couple of years ago when I went through my own near death experience, I realized that the physical wounds eventually heal, but the psychological wounds are not that easy to deal with. And until this day, I'm still
Exactly.
struggling with it. And I'm sure you are too. Like, there are many issues that, yes, you've got a good grasp on it now, it's under control, but it rears its ugly head every once in a while, right? I mean,
It
I don't
does.
have to tell you that. You know that more than I do. And then
It's
even
a
things like I always say to people that, the devil comes out at night. When it's quiet, when the hustle and bustle of the day is over, that's when, all these thoughts creep up on you, and it's easy to be swallowed by them again. And the mental wounds are not that easy to deal with.
From about 12 to 35, I was dealing with depression, mania, hallucinations, paranoia, delusions, and it haunts me. It does. But that's why I have to work on myself and use those skills and use those strategies because I'm going to have this illness for the rest of my life. I'm going to have these memories for the rest of my life. And healing isn't linear, it's up and down. I'm going to be up
Yeah, it's a
here.
messy path. Yeah.
It is. I'm going to crash at some point. I'm going to have a symptom. I'm going to have a memory. But while I'm well, that's the most vital time to work on these skills. So when I hit that bottom level, it's ingrained in me and what to do. And I
Right,
know
right.
who to talk to. You know, you're going to have bad days. That's just part of life.
That's my biggest takeaway from today's discussion as well. I think all the day to day that you do to strengthen yourself are for the bad days that surely will come. When they do come and at your bottom, but you've put in the work to put yourself in a better place, mentally, physically, everything. You deal with those really bad days a lot better than if you're not prepared for them.
Yeah, back in my 20s, I wasn't prepared at all, and the bad days just lingered and got worse and worse because I wasn't skilled. I wasn't practicing. So now that I'm older and know these things, I'm able to climb that mountain a lot faster than I used to be.
Right, right, right.
Yes, yes. So true. So true. All right. So yeah, thank you so much for those um all those good thoughts or those good suggestions you have today. Um Usually we like to sort of close out with like a take home message, sort of a nugget of wisdom that we partake on our audience. So what would be the general message you would like to sort of embed in everyone's mind today?
Typically, I talk about kindness, but I've already done that. So I think the biggest takeaway today is that it's okay to not be okay. And
Okay.
healing and hope are very
Mm,
possible. So be
yeah,
kind to yourself, give yourself grace, and you will get through this.
Wow.
right.
That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
wow, that's so powerful. I'm gonna use that
yeah.
today. I'm using that today.
Just, it's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not be okay. All right. All right. I'll tell myself that today. I try to tell myself that every day, right? It's okay to not be okay. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Maddie, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
no, it's definitely a great experience. We hope to have you on again. We could talk more. There's definitely a lot of things. This whole mental health topic, I think, is never ending. I feel there's always
Yeah.
changing. There's always something new.
Yeah, it's so good to talk to
Right.
you because you've awakened in my mind a lot of the thoughts that I've been thinking about. It's just that
Yeah.
I don't normally visit them every day,
Yeah.
but it's that's why it's good to talk to somebody, and then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
Yeah.
revisit those thoughts, and then you affirm some of the conclusions that you've arrived at, and
Yeah.
maybe discard some of the ideas that are no longer useful to you. Yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
So
I
we
appreciate you guys being willing to talk about it and being open and creating the platform. That's really special.
yes, definitely. Well, maybe we'll start a new segment, the Angry Asian Uncle's support group episodes.
those don't have to be
uh,
paid episodes, though.
just support groups, just all
I'm
the.
kidding. I'm kidding.
No, it'll be a nonprofit. All uncles or aunties want to join. We could just just be sharing. But no, thank you
It should
again
be a
so
more
much, man.
private group where
Yeah, yeah,
like more real talk can happen. Like because
yeah,
today it's great we're presenting the ideas, just an overarching framework, but
right.
like there's so much left to share, and a lot of people who need these resources, they come and then they really have really highly emotional and charged stories to share, and they need a safe space to share those stories, right? So probably
That's true.
one that is only for people in the group, not necessarily public, because not everyone's
Yeah.
comfortable sharing their stories out in the public.
Yes,
Yeah, we
definitely. Yeah,
can.
yeah. Not
Yeah.
everyone's like us, but 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 yeah, I think like support groups are great. I used to go to one
Oh,
for
that's Reynold, you have a lot of stories. I know you have a lot of stories, but of course, you don't share everything. I know.
well, I'm doing this podcast for the long run. I can't use all my stories up at once. And yeah,
Maddie,
for
I'm sure
sure.
you've
So
encountered a lot of people like Reynolds. Like they actually have a lot of stories left to share, but you have to
Yeah.
get them in a good, frame of mind to actually tell those stories, right?
People
right,
people have a lot of hidden wisdom, but they have to
yeah,
feel comfortable and safe and willing to
Exactly.
share that with
that's
you.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, even so, so all right, we'll do some private support group sessions, right? Free of charge, free of
Maddie can
charge.
head that. Maddie can head that program, and then we'll
Yeah,
join.
exactly. Right,
We'll pull everyone we know who's got who needs to
right.
mental issues
Yes.
to come and join. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
exactly. Yes.
And
right.
nowadays, mental issues is everyone. That means
Yeah.
everyone. Because I,
Yes,
I think
Yeah.
everyone. Yes.
you can count on one hand who doesn't have any kind of mental issues. Like almost everyone's suffering from something.
Yeah,
I would agree
that's so
with that
true.
statement.
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone has
It's
something to
rare to
bear,
find somebody who's like genuinely like I'm okay. I don't
right?
like I don't really need any therapy. Like that's really rare nowadays.
That's so true. That's so true. Yeah. All right. So, all right. Thank you again, Maddie. Thank you again so much for today. We definitely learned a lot. We shared a lot. Again, that is our 2 cents for today. So please like and subscribe. Of course, sharing is caring. And we hope to catch everyone on the next episode. Thank you.
And we hope to catch Maddie again in a future
Yeah.
episode. I love
Yeah, I'd love
talking
Yes.
to you. I
to.
hope you come
Yes.
back again.
I would
Yes.
love
Um,
to.
yeah, thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you
Yeah.
again. Thank you again.